I mean, I mustn't be unkind to him just because he screwed up the end of my series and legged it having written a duff script. I mustn't be unkind to him, but he did bottle out. And we don't bottle out, do we? Once we said we'll do something. But I did it once more after that. I came back a couple of years later and did another one. It was something, had I started as a younger man, I think I'd have done it quite a lot. And I'd love to do it from high up and do free fall. I mean, it's a rare opportunity that, because of the job I do, that you do get chances to do things you wouldn't otherwise get, like I've been down a coal mine. You know, I've gone down a mile into the ground and then 2 miles out and been where the coal miners go. And that's an extraordinary experience as well. And I've done loads of things. I've landed a plane. I've actually landed, we get to do that now, I landed a Boeing at Tel Aviv airport. Now, when I say that, it was time, funny enough, when I was doing The Brothers all those years ago, and we flew El Al, and The Brothers was huge in Israel. And they invited me into the cockpit, and I've been chatting to them for an hour, and I said, well, you're about to land, and I go, no, it's okay, do you want to land the plane? You see, the arrogance, yeah, I can do that, yeah. I mean, what happened was the co-pilot got out the seat, I sat in it and rested my hands lightly on the controls, which do the same thing as the other controls. So while he was doing the thing, if I'd done that, he would have blown it. They trusted me completely. But it was, I mean, you've probably all been in a cockpit at some time. Doesn't everybody? Get in cockpits? Yes, you've all done it, haven't you? But to do it when you're landing is so different, because you know, you're always used to landing looking out the side window, aren't you? To actually do it from the front is brilliant. I've steered the Isle of Wight ferry. I went over to the Isle of Wight in Bessie, Doctor's car, to open some Doctor Who event they had there 8-9 years ago, more perhaps. And the captain of the Isle of Wight ferry said, would you like to drive the ferry? Yeah. Yeah, I can do that, yeah. So he said, right, try and keep it, head for that headland there. But they'd just left the harbour at outside Portsmouth. And he said, just aim for that, try and keep straight. So I was trying to keep straight like this. And I said, do you want to take me? He said, no, you're doing fine. So I was driving down here for about 20 minutes. He said, look behind you. And the wake. It was like that. It was, they were all pissing themselves. This naff actor couldn't even drive straight in a boat. And then we were getting closer and closer to the harbour. I said, do you want to take over? He said, no, you're doing fine. I said, but it's coming. And I promise you, it was, I mean, I thought I was going to hit the harbour wall, and you wouldn't come in. I said, no, you're doing fine. And then he strolled over in this bloody great boat, and it was about 1.5 inches from the harbour wall. It went, and it went and parked. It is wonderful watching an expert doing a job like that. But all those are things that would never have happened if I hadn't, you know, been slightly high profile on television. So it's a great program. I mean, I think anyone here who's, you know, remembers when you were a kid watching people driving around in cars. I mean, certainly in my case, growing up in the 50s, I thought, I wonder if I'll ever, you know, drive a car. You know, and you do. You grow up and you end up driving a car. If you'd said to me, if I'd said then, I wonder if I'll ever be a star in a TV series, it didn't even occur to me to think of it. Will I drive a boat? Will I fly a plane? None of those. Forget it. So you never know what's going to happen in life, do you? Go down a coal mine. All those things I've done. Been bombed by the Israeli Air Force. I've done that. That was, you're going, oh yeah, bomber there. It was just after the 6-day war, and I went over there as a student to work on a kibbutz, because, you know, free holiday, yeah? And I went off one day just outside Jerusalem, went for a walk on my own, up the hills around. And as I was, bear in mind this was the same year as the 6-day war, suddenly these planes came across the top of the hills, and they looked as if they were about 2 meters above the top, and went shh, and as they did, they dropped bombs everywhere, all around me. And I was the only person on this huge expanse that was being bombed. I thought, why me? Why are they trying to bomb me? And I've seen it on the movie, so I dropped down and, you know, covered myself up like that and shook a bit and contemplated where I was going to get the trousers from and things like that. And when it all finished, I staggered back down. There was a crowd down the bottom. And they were saying things to me in Hebrew, which I didn't understand. And I said, anyone speak English? And this policeman came across and said, yes, I do. I said, what's going on? What's all that about? I thought the war had finished. And he said, they were making a film of the war. I said, but they could have killed me. Israeli pilots only hit what they aimed for. And I said, but you could have warned me. He said, there are notices everywhere. There were, in Hebrew. Saying, do not enter, film set, and things like that. It was all in Hebrew. And nobody said, oh, there's an idiot Englishman. Oh, one more or less doesn't make any difference. They're probably filming it, hoping I get killed. So that's the downside of the perks. Michael Grade in the plane. Is he Jewish? It's true, he could have been. He could have been, actually. I met Michael Grade, you know, just after he'd sacked me in Doctor Who. I was invited by the publicity department of the BBC to go with Joanne Whalley and Bob Peck, who had been the stars of a series, Edge of Darkness, thank you for supplying the words for me. Edge of Darkness was the critical success of that year, and Doctor Who was always the commercial success every year. So they were celebrating 50 years of British television in America. So they had a big shindig in New York and one in Los Angeles, and we three were invited to go over and represent the BBC, together with the BBC bigwigs, at these celebrations. And I got my agent to ring back and say, you do realise Colin's actually been sacked from the role? And he said, no, that's all right, doesn't matter. I said, oh, fine. So about a month after I'd been told I was no longer required, I found myself staying at the Beverly Hills Hotel in Los Angeles, being treated like a star. Nobody had been told that I'd been sacked. And I found myself, first of all, in a lift going down with Michael Grade, who buried himself in some paperwork and refused to acknowledge I was there. And the next time was Bob Peck, Joanne Whalley, I and David Dimbleby, who was part of the celebrations out there, were in a limo, stretch limo, being taken from one place to another. And a Rolls Royce drew up beside us, inside which was Michael Grade and his wife. So David Dimbleby, who at that time had he applied for the job of controller of the BBC when Michael Grade got it. So he wound down the window and shouted out some abuse to Michael Grade, which I'll paraphrase. Michael Grade, old chap, you very darling fellow, noted for your generosity and wit, why don't you take us for a drink? You very generous person, you. Except it wasn't at that. And Grade said, follow me. And we followed this Rolls Royce to the street and went to a club in New York. We all went in. And I was sitting next to Michael Grade's wife, and he got himself right around the other side, away from me. In the conversation, and she said, oh, of course you're Doctor Who, aren't you? When do you start the next series? I said, well, I don't actually, because I've been replaced. Oh, I said, well, you have to ask Michael. And all he said was, oh, we don't want to talk about that tonight, do we? And I said, yes. I said, no, it's not appropriate, not appropriate. But I drank his Dom Perignon, at least. He was very generous. But David Dimbleby was outrageous with him. He kept trying to probe him on questions he couldn't answer. It was a very funny evening. I wish I could remember it but, in detail, but I just remember the overall. But it was very odd. To be told that somebody has ordered your dismissal and then find yourself drinking his champagne a few weeks later. Funny old world. We've never met since.